Hello everyone, it's Ian from Action Language at Action Foundation, and today I'm joined by one of our volunteer teachers, Christine. Hi Christine.
Hi.
So today we're going to be talking about cars and driving, is that right?
Yep, certainly.
All right, so Christine's kindly prepared some questions. So the first question, what are the main things people should know about driving in the UK?
Well, I think first of all, of course, in the UK, we drive on the left side of the road. And that's quite unusual because in most countries, you drive on the right. I think one of the tricky things people find is going around roundabouts. And in England, you go round the roundabout in a clockwise direction. Pedestrians also need to remember that when you're crossing the road, you look right first, because that's where the cars will be coming from when you step onto the road. Another question?
Yeah. I was just thinking, often when you're crossing the road as a pedestrian, it's written on the ground which way you should look. So that's something important for pedestrians to remember. The next question is, what should drivers know about the law in the UK?
Well, of course, you have got to have a license, a driving license. Also, you must have insurance against accidents. I've got mine. I'll show you later. It's rather expensive, but you know, if you are stopped by the police and you don't have insurance, you can get an instant fine of £300 and 6 penalty points on your license.
Okay, what does this mean, points on your license?
Points on your license for different offences, like speeding or not having insurance, you get points. And then if you get 12 points in 3 years, you lose your license for 6 months and you can't drive for 6 months. Now, very, very bad news if you're a van driver or a lorry driver, or if you need your car for work, you're out of work. One other thing, you must pay road tax to drive your car or van on the road. So that's 3 things: license, insurance, road tax. Okay. Driving license. Yeah, driving license, I said that.
Yeah. So, yeah, we need to be careful not to get too many points on our licenses. Okay. What does the law say about cars?
Well, obviously, of course, everything must be in good order when you take a car on the road. I'm thinking lights, brakes, tires, everything, so that it's safe to be driven. The police will stop you if they think there's a problem with any of those things.
Okay, and what about older cars?
Well, if a car is over 3 years old, it must be checked every year by a garage. So every part of the car, the steering, the seat belts, everything in the engine, the brakes, the lights, even the windscreen wipers. Everything must be working properly, and then you get a certificate for the car. It's called an MOT test certificate. And you've got to have it, because if you want to sell an older car, you really need to be sure it will pass this test. Otherwise, people will not buy it.
Okay, so that's important to remember, because a lot of our viewers will probably be looking to buy second-hand cars. So about driving license, how do you get a driving license in England?
Driving license, well, English citizens, once you're 17 years old, that seems awfully young, 17 years old, you take a driving test, and if you pass, away you go. I should say that many accidents happen to new young drivers, especially young men, showing off beyond their skills, driving too fast, taking bends too fast. But at 17, you are allowed to take the test, and if you pass, away you go.
And I think just about what you said about young men and accidents, a lot of insurance companies seem to charge young men a little bit more because of this. Am I right?
It's not a little bit more, it's a huge amount more. It could cost you more to insure your car than you spend on buying it if you're very young.
Yeah, so that's another thing to consider. Do you really need a car just because you passed your test?
Good thinking.
Yeah. What if you have come to live in the UK from another country?
Well, if you have, excuse me, if you have a driving license in your home country, there are different rules for different countries. European countries, European Union countries, if your license is from there, you can keep using it in the UK, no problem. Non-European Union countries, well, you can use your license from your home country for 1 year, but then you must take the driving test and pass before you can drive in the UK on it. And I'll tell you more about the test later. And then there's a few countries like Hong Kong, Zimbabwe, with long-term links with the UK, where there's slightly different rules. And you can check it all for yourselves on the government website, and I'll give you that link later.
Okay, and we'll also post that link in the comments underneath as well. So when you're watching the video, you can check that website out. Thanks for that, Christine. What do you have to do in a driving test?
Well, nowadays, there are 3 parts. 3 parts to the driving test. First, you do a theory test. You answer questions about driving on the road, about looking after your car, about being safe. There are 50 questions and you have an hour to answer them. You have to get 43 correct. So it's quite a tough, difficult test. You do it online in a test center on the computer, and the questions are multiple choice. So you get a choice of 4 answers and you just choose the one you want. But you need to prepare a lot for that test. It's in English, no translations now. But again, on the website, the government website, there are lots of links to places where you can practice the test just to get a feel for what it's about. And of course, there's a book for you to read. Again, you can do it online, and it's called the Highway Code, which tells you everything you need to know.
How did you get on in your driving test, Christine?
Oh, well, I passed the next part. I didn't have to do a theory test because I did it a long time ago. There's also an eyesight test, and I passed that. In the eyesight test, you go outside and you have to look at a car which is 20 meters away, and you have to read the number plates. Quite a good test. You can wear your glasses if you need to, or contact lenses, but if you can't do that, you do not do the rest of the test. The third part of the test is horrible, horrible. You get in your car and beside you is the tester, the examiner person. You drive along, he tells you what to do, to stop, start, turn left, turn right, turn the car around, stop for an emergency when he slaps the dashboard. It's horrible, horrible. Everybody gets so nervous when you do it. The tester is watching very carefully, and he writes down every single mistake that you make. And at the end, you get given the sheet with everything he's written. How did I get on? I failed 3 times.
Well, oh, wow.
It was horrible. I just made mistakes. I went too fast or I went too slow. I couldn't turn the car around in 3 goes. I didn't respond fast enough to the emergency. And when I did, I screeched to a halt. Everything I could do wrong, I did wrong. It was very frustrating. However, I failed 3 times and then I passed. And I've been driving now for 40 years. And I've only had 1 little accident and no one was hurt. I'll tell you what happened. I bumped into a parked car. I was driving slowly. The other car was standing still and I hit it. It was so embarrassing, horrible, awful. Does that answer most of your questions then, Ian?
It does. I was just wondering for our viewers, sometimes when you're a pedestrian, you see kind of car drivers maybe waving to each other or giving little signals to each other. When and why do they do this?
It can be very confusing. I'm thinking of your horn, beep, beep. The law says you mustn't use the horn to be angry at somebody or to tell them get out of the way. You should only use your horn to let somebody know that you're there. Beep. You know, if you're reversing or somebody's stepping into the road, beep. That's the only time you should use it. As for flashing your lights, it can be useful. If I need to overtake a parked car and something's coming in the other direction, I might flash my lights to tell the other driver you can come through. But you have to be so careful because there might be other dangers that you haven't seen. So really, it's best just to be ready to wait and then decide what's going to happen. And common courtesy, you know, if you're wanting to, if you're driving along and there's a junction and a car needs to come out, well, if you know you're going to stop at the traffic lights, let the car come out. If everybody is courteous to each other, it makes everybody on the road much safer. So courtesy, politeness, kindness, just like if you're walking, you should do that when you're driving as well.
And finally then, what about wearing seat belts inside the car?
No 2 ways about it, you must. And the driver must make sure that passengers are wearing a seatbelt and that children are in proper seats for children to keep them safe in the back. You can get information about that on the government website, but it is the driver is responsible for everybody in the car.
Okay, thank you. And I believe you've got some things to show us, Christine.
Yes, you might find this useful. What am I going to do? I'm going to go share screen. Can you all see that?
It's coming. Yes.
Right, so slideshow, current slide. We'll go back. Yes, here's the highway code. This tells you everything, almost everything you need to know about driving in the UK. It's a very nice document, lots of illustrations, not too much writing, and very clear English. And you can buy it as a book, or you can read it online. And there's the link, which Ian will post up later. A logbook. Now, I mentioned that you need an MOT certificate if you're going to sell your car, but the law says you must have a logbook for the car. And if you buy a car, you must get the car's logbook from the seller. And the logbook is just a piece of paper. It's like this, but the government keeps it, all the details about the car. So it has a history of everybody who has owned the car. And the law says you must get this from the person you buy the car from and send it to the DVLA. That's the driving section of the government. So that's called a logbook, even though it's not a book. I talked about the MOT test certificate. Cars over 3 years, you must take them to a garage that is allowed to make the certificates. Your mechanic will check everything. And I've got mine. You can see up here, I got a pass, and it wasn't cheap. Nothing needed to be done to mend the car, but it still cost £44 just to get the certificate. But really, nobody will buy my car if I don't have an MOT certificate. My driving license, nice little bit of plastic. Many years I've had that. I can keep it until I'm 70, and then I've got to send away and say, look, I'm fit. Can I go on driving? And they will send me a new driving license. Many years yet. Insurance. Yes, I've got my insurance certificate, my cover, and my car is now insured. That wasn't cheap. £303 for mine. And then here is the site you need to use, gov.uk, driving, everything you need to know, driving licenses, the tax, the MOT, insurance, everything you need to know is on this site. I don't know about you, Ian, but I think it's all very clear. The government site is very well written and very clear to read.
Yeah, and I think all sections are. A lot of our viewers will have been using the health ones recently, perhaps, to look at the COVID information. And it's set out in exactly the same way with very clear sections.
Right, that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you very much, Christine. And just to say that perhaps, maybe not this year, but in 2022, we might be doing some, courses for our students to help them with driving, with the theory part. So watch this space, but probably not till next year.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Christine. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye, folks. Bye, everyone.